Welcome to the Investing with Purpose podcast, where we discuss investing for generational wealth creation and how that intersects with the purpose of your life. We're going to give actionable steps to investing from our experience buying hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, and also hearing from other amazing entrepreneurs that use the fruits of their business to give back and make an impact. Let's get to it.
What I want to do with you this morning is give you 5 core principles. These are the 5 core principles that we built all of our companies by. I want to give you these principles, and then we'll talk a little bit about them. We don't want to go too long, obviously. Okay, so the first principle, be faithful in little. So it's to be faithful in little. It's the speck of sand in your shoe. It's not going to keep you from running a sprint, but it'll destroy your foot in a marathon. So it's the little things. That's why when you're running a company, and when we're especially an organization like what we have here, where we've got investors, the little things that we do every single day, they matter. They matter huge. So it's the little things. Number 2 principle, be producers, not consumers. So we're consistently, and obviously a principle works whether you apply it to a business, whether you apply it to finances, your marriage, your personal life, your working out, whatever. You're going to be a producer and not a consumer. You're going to think about what you can give, not about what we can get. This is very important. Trav and Steve are so generous. They're so good with paying people really well and all this kind of stuff. But our ultimate goal is what we can give to our end user, which for us would be the investors. So we want to think about what we can give and how we can maximize what the investors get. Okay, so it's be producers, not consumers. And the third principle goes hand in hand with this. It's be fountains and not drains. Be fountains and not drains. When you find yourself in the workplace is the spot where you get your buttons pushed. Because obviously none of us get our buttons pushed when we're at home with our wife and our spouse and kids, right? We get our buttons pushed there too, but the workplace, we get our buttons pushed. When our buttons get pushed, what comes out? Well, what comes out of a water fountain when you push the button? Something that nourishes you. So when our buttons get pushed, what comes out of us should be the thing that nourishes the very people that push our buttons. Okay? It's a different way to think. Yeah. A fountain is only concerned with one thing. It's being connected to a source, the source of water. So for us, that would be our relationship with the God who created us. He is our source. When we're connecting with him on a daily basis, spending time in prayer, listening prayer, you guys already know is a big deal. Reading the Bible, being involved in your church community, accountability community, whatever, you're staying connected to the source. You'll begin to change so that when your buttons get pushed, what's coming out of you is nourishment for people. A fountain is always concerned about a source. You know what a drain wants to be connected to? A fountain. Draining people when you're around them. It's like you literally just feel drained. It's like, so long as they're connected to you, they're happy. But if they're not connected to you, they're not happy. That's because they're drains. They're not connected to the source. So we want to be fountains. We don't want to be draining people. Number 4 principle, breathe life. Breathing life is a principle where every situation that we find ourselves in, we want to be life breathers. We want to be life givers. I'll give you an example of not breathing life. Being the person that raises the red flag and is really good about pointing out the things that are going wrong in our systems and our processes, but not coming with solutions. No, you're not the fragrance of life. You're the fragrance of death. If you're going to point out a problem, you better doggone have a solution. Otherwise, you're not a life breather. So we want to breathe life in every situation that we go into. Take that whenever you go to your workout place or whatever. You want to be the kind of person that when you walk in somewhere, you're breathing life to people. You're bringing life to that situation. You want to bring life. And the 5th principle, and this one's so good, give more in value than you take in pay. Give more in value than you take in pay. So this is always over delivery. This is why David and I love what you think. It's in every, it's Travis needs something done by Dylan. And next thing you know, Dylan does everything that Travis said, hey, Dylan, let's get this done. But then Dylan adds an extra tab to that Excel spreadsheet that's a little something that he thought Travis might like, So you guys know the story in the Old Testament where King David wanted to build a temple for God. He had this because at that point, it wasn't a temple, it was a tabernacle. So God's presence was inside of this place that was like a tent. And they moved it all over. And then David goes one day, hey, I want to build a temple for God. So he goes to God and he says, God, I want to build a temple for you. God didn't tell David, build me a temple. It was David's own idea because he knew God and he projected what he thought God would like. So he said, I want to build you a temple. And God goes, I'm going to let your son build that. But the fact that you wanted to do that for me, I'm going to bless you with an everlasting kingdom. And that's the line through which Jesus came. So what giving more in value than you take and pay, that principle says, whoever gave you the thing to do or whatever, whether it's the client, whether it's a supervisor, whatever it is, think about what they would like that they didn't ask for, but you know that they would ultimately probably like it because you've paid attention. Give it to them. But in our everyday jobs that we do, it's giving more in value than we take and pay. Now, I want you to write down these two definitions, and then I'll be done. A value is a one-word descriptor of what's important. So value, one-word description of what's important. That's what a value is. So a value, you can value honesty. I mean, the values go, it's character, it's integrity. One of the values that David and I had, obviously we had honesty and integrity. One of our values when we were building Benham Real Estate Group was speed. And so we said that if one of our asset managers, so David and I, we managed and liquidated houses on behalf of banks. So when banks foreclosed on houses, they would give us, 100 houses, and it was our responsibility to manage and liquidate those. For us, the asset manager at the bank was like our top end client. If an asset manager reached out to us, didn't matter what time, when it was, they would receive an email response in less than 5 minutes. And we figured out a way to make this work. And we still had lives where we had some virtual assistants, like even on Sunday, where 5 minutes they got a response. Hey, we're on this. We had everything systemized to where we could work it out, to where we still had good lives, but yet within 5 minutes they got a response. That's speed right there, because we knew that those asset managers were taking their headaches and handing them to us. We didn't need to hand it back to them. We needed to take their headache from them. So they needed to know, oh, they got it? Okay, good. Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't have maybe a response at that point, in terms of fixing their problem, it was, hey, we got this, we're on this, we got you covered. So one of our values was speed. A value is one word descriptor of what you deem important. And that works for your personal life, your family life, your organizational life. Okay. A principle. Now this is what you got to write down. A principle is one sentence that ties value to action. It's one sentence that ties value to action. So faithfulness was a value of, so faithfulness. Okay, we want to be faithful, right? Well, we wanted a principle that would tie that value to action that would help our people. So we're like, be faithful in the little, those little things that we're doing. So that takes the value of faithfulness and it ties it into action by coming up with a principle. Now, the reason I tell you guys that is because in your own personal life, it's really good for you guys to start to ponder, what do I value? What do I value? And how am I going to tie that value to action? I'm going to create my own list of principles. You follow me? That's why I wanted you guys
give a bow tie, but the analogy of a bow tie, you guys have all seen the bow tie, right?
Yeah.
One flap is values, the other flap is action. Principles are the knot that tie together values and action. And you do this with your kids, right? We value these things, faithfulness in our home. So faithfulness in little things. That's why you take out the trash. We are faithful in little things. Why? Because faithfulness is a core value in our family. So all the little things matter, right? Making your bed. We are faithful in little things. So it's just the principles are the knots. And if you just have 3 of them, that's great. 3 values, and you want 3 actions, and just give it a sentence. We are a fountain and not a drain, right? Like the Marines, high speed, low drag.
Yeah.
Those are just simple principles, but those are tying values to actions like a bow tie.
Sean, do you guys have values and principles written down for IHG?
We have our core values. And
what are those?
Integrity, growth, humility, Christ-centeredness,
Respect.
and respect.
That's good.
Oh, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I set them out of order. Christ-centeredness is first.
Yes.
We got your heart.
Now, do those values have principle statements associated with them, which most companies don't have that? My task for you guys is then for you to start thinking about, let's take those values. I would say all of you for the next week, marinate on that, listen, and write a short, try to make the sentence short, not too long, to tie that value to action with a principle statement. And then let's all get it together and jumble it up, and let's kind of come up with this, and let's come up with some, even if it's just 3 core principles or whatever.
Yeah.
I think having the same amount of principles and the same amount of values is good, but it doesn't really matter. So we've got some guiding principles.
And that's how value really putting people over, process. And there are values inside your process as well, like growth minded and other things. But that's really how, when you have these principles and you ask yourself, are we weaving these principles into every single transaction of the business, into every single conversation, just in very easy, seamless ways, is going to be amazing.
So that's it.
Stephen, we are
one of our, so I'll give you one example, and then we'll close our yappers. So be faithful in little was one of our things. And so we used to talk about our systems and the processes that we had. And obviously most everything that we did was all online. And be faithful in little was one of the things that we always told our folks, like, if we've got a process that involves 8 steps, let's cut it to 7. That's just a small little thing. Let's cut it to 7. So we called it minimizing mouse clicks. So if you can minimize a mouse click, you got a gift card. I forgot where we gave them a gift card to, but if you can minimize the mouse click, which is take a 8-step process and make it into a 7-step process. This is something little, but being faithful like that will help the whole company, and it'll help us in efficiency and to serve our end users and our clients better. It was just that one little guiding principle then gave us the idea, minimize mouse clicks. So you can see how principles is so important, and it just guides you in everything that you do.
I think we're all on the right track. I feel like it's easy to get overwhelmed by the opportunity. You can drown in opportunity, but we all know that it's one step at a time. We're building a very firm foundation, which needs to go down and wide first before we can go really high. We're building a skyscraper, not a townhouse.
Yeah, that's good.
So we're not pouring a slab. We're digging down deep to make sure that the foundation is strong. And appreciate your help in doing that.
No, just going back to the be faithful in the little. It's funny because you talked about like taking out the trash and making your bed. My son, he's 10, the other day, he was like, why do you care about these things? Because like I have him, he has a chore chart that has those things on it. And like, I had to think about it. Like, how do I explain that to him? And I'll use that from now on, because being faithful in the little.
That's right.
And for him.
And then you could just finish the statement that Jesus says, if you're faithful in the little, you'll be faithful in much. And so I don't know what motivates your 10-year-old, but if you want, like I tell my 12-year-old boy, I'm like, you want to play major college basketball like your cousin? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, good. If you want to be faithful in the big, you got to be faithful now here in the little. So it definitely helps. And that's the beauty of principles, guys. Honestly, the same principles you have in your business, you have in your family, you have for your marriage, you have for your friendships. Principles are timeless. So that's good.
Let me just say one more thing. And because I just see a team here. It's really important that we all work together, especially those of you who are in the day-to-day. Google did a multi-million-dollar research project on their company, and they split their company into all the different teams. And they had like hundreds of different teams inside Google. They spent multi-million dollars research on what makes the best teams. And they narrowed it down to one core characteristic that makes the best teams work within a workplace. And that one core characteristic is psychological safety. Kind of a big word. Well, I guess it's 2 words. Psychological safety. But what it means is within the context of a team, every person feels free to bring their ideas to the team, their thoughts and ideas to the team, without the fear of being shamed or without the fear of feeling like that
doesn't matter.
Like it, that it doesn't matter, it doesn't carry any worth. It's everybody on the team values the ideas that are getting thrown into the pot, and nobody's saying that's a stupid idea. That's done. It's like they feel safe to do that. So I do think that our core principles, that Sean shares with us, that Christ-centeredness, when you're acting like Christ, it creates an environment of psychological safety, of which my wife and I do marriage stuff. We talk about emotional safety, and where each partner has to feel like, 1, they want to share their deepest core emotions, but 2, they know that they're not going to, it's not going to be held against them in any way, shape, or form. So as a team, when we're operating by the values and principles that we put together, one of those is to make sure that all of us feel like we can bring our ideas and that it's not just going to get smashed or bashed or whatever, that it's actually going to be valued, even if we don't go with the idea. So the reason why I say that is, if any of you don't feel safe in bringing an idea, it is of utmost importance that you let Sean know that, and so that you guys we can get to the bottom of it. Otherwise, no matter what our core principles and values are, without that psychological safety, none of this is going to matter. We all need to feel safe with each other. So Chris can say, hey, I had this idea. We can do this to be able to make more, bring in investment partners. Well, Steve could have already thought through that and goes, no, that's the dumbest thing. No, we're not going to do that. Well, now all of a sudden, Chris doesn't feel psychologically safe. He might not bring another idea, and that idea could be the game changer idea. You see what I'm saying? So we need to make sure as a team that we're creating this environment so that we feel safe, and then our core principles and values will do an even better job of leading.
Thanks for listening to the Investing with Purpose podcast. If you're finding value, would you leave us a review and share this with your friends? And go to investingwithpurpose.org to learn more about how to partner with us and to learn more about the nonprofits that we support around the world.